Good morning and welcome back to day 85 of our 365 Bible studies. We are looking at ancient sagas. At the moment, we're looking at ancient sagas that have at least the seeds of their stories in the invasion and settlement of Canaan by the children of Israel. And today we have the sad story of Jephthah's daughter. If you would like to find it in your own Bible, it's Judges chapter 11, verses 34 to 40. I'll turn you around so you can see my translation of it, and I'll read it to you. Then the Spirit of Yahweh descended on Jephthah. He promised to Yahweh, "If you give me the victory over the pagans of Ammon, in return I will make a sacrificial burnt offering of the first human that comes out of my house to meet me when I come back triumphant." And the army of Ammon was defeated by Israel. So when Jephthah came home to Mizpah, out came his one and only child, his daughter, to greet him, dancing and playing the tambourine. When he saw who it was, he ripped his clothes in despair. He was crying, "My daughter, my heart is breaking. Why did it have to be you? I promised Yahweh. It was a serious promise, and I have to do it." She replied, "You have made Yahweh this promise, and you must do it because Yahweh has allowed you to pay back the people of Ammon, your enemies. But please do one thing for me first. Give me 2 months to spend with my friends, wandering among the mountains, so that I can grieve that I must die unmarried and childless." She did come back 2 months later, and he fulfilled his vow to Yahweh. She died a virgin, and this is the cause of the custom in Israel that the young women go away for 4 days every year to remember her, the daughter of Jephthah of Gilead. This story is a part of a long campaign against human sacrifice, which was allegedly practiced by pagans and occasionally also by Israelites. As we saw back on day 58, when looking at Abraham being convinced he had to sacrifice his son Isaac, this little horror story today is also evidence that human sacrifice did indeed take place amongst the Hebrews for some time during the settlement of Canaan, and may well have survived in the text because its editors sided with kings like Hezekiah and prophets like Micah around 700 BC, who were still trying to stamp it out. Setting this story back in the time of Jephthah, easily 300 years before, certainly will have given it some weight. Unlike Isaac, who was not sacrificed but reprieved at the last moment, this poor girl was remembered for having forfeited her life for the sake of her father's foolish vow. Jewish interpreters have historically dated the law forbidding the sacrifice of children from this event recorded here today. From where we stand, of course, there's no logical reason why Jephthah should have made such a foolish and disastrous promise to God, even if, as alleged, the Spirit of God had descended upon him. Maybe he spoke before he had time to think about the possible consequences of his vow. We can be sure that God would have forgiven him if he once was brave enough to change his mind. The New Testament gives us a picture of God who does not demand life, but gives it and renews it. And even in later Judaism, it is not humans, but God who gives and takes away, as we read in Job chapter 1, verse 21. Admittedly, this has given us, in our more advanced and less superstitious times, some moral dilemmas, for instance about when abortions might be permitted, or how hard we should try to keep the dying person alive, or even whether capital punishment should ever be used. It has certainly caused us to think carefully and behave mindfully when faced with such problems. Tomorrow, the unfortunate person is the famous hero, Samson. I'll see you tomorrow.